Welcome to Pimpy's Investment Chat, where we keep investment talk simple. And here's your host, Pimpy.
What is going on out there, peeps? Good Lord, there is a lot going on in Iraq. Talk about a chess game being played. It's not even funny. This isn't checkers. This is chess. Maliki making some bold moves. Ones that are sending definitely ripples throughout Iraq, and not the good kind of ripples. The public's not happy about a decision he made, but he feels it's necessary as part of his arsenal to get his way with forming his government. As a matter of fact, word is he wants to be the prime minister. Yeah, you know, the same guy that resigned, what was it, a couple years ago? So some interesting plays being played by different political parties. We know now the courts are weighing in on what's going on, finally. So is the United States, so are a lot of other people. They want something done, and they want it done right away in Iraq. They want the government formed, but for different reasons. Before we get started, go ahead and hit the thumbs up button. If you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I surely do appreciate it. Anyways, right now is a great time to buy gold and silver. If you're thinking about doing so, go to our friends over at Money Metals Exchange. The link is down below in the description. If you are a first-time buyer and you spend more than $100, use promo code Pimpy, P-I-M-P-Y, and you will get a free half ounce of silver. Man, I've said this time and time again. Some of the biggest problems we have with the Iraqi dinar changing in value is the fact that the government is not stable. It's filled with corruption. We got to be careful about civil unrest. Anything that causes disturbance. We got to make sure that Iran keeps their 2 cents out of the country. We got to make sure that the United States keeps their 2 cents out of the country. So first, there's an answer to my question. What can the courts do about the election? It says a legal expert clarifies the extent to which the federal court can compel Parliament to elect the President of the Republic. All the article goes on to say is based on the Constitution, the courts have a right to turn over to the Parliament the right to dissolve itself and then try early elections. I can't imagine them guys wanting to dissolve themselves. It's going to be interesting. Now, of course, this is good news. It says Iraqi finance. The gains of high oil prices are $25 billion after 6 months from now. So they're forecasting an additional $25 billion coming in Iraq due to the high oil prices. That can help them tons, especially with rebuilding infrastructure, building the private sector, the public sector, doing what you can to get jobs, get people off unemployment, get people off government aid. These are the types of things we're looking for. So, over the next 6 months, a $25 additional billion would be really nice. Now the United States is warning Iraq about their current political situation. America warns of an obstacle impeding the development of relationships between Baghdad and Washington. Obviously, you got to have an established government. Who do you deal with? Do you deal with the intern government at the moment and try to make deals? Or do you wait for the new government? And this is one of the reasons why we won't see a rate change happen anytime soon. It says U.S. Deputy Assistant Secretary of the State of Iraq and Iran warned against the delay in forming an Iraqi government, noting that this matter created an obstacle to developing strategic relations between America and Iraq. She went on to say that it called on all parties to expedite the process of forming the new government. She met with the president of the Kurdistan region, Barzani, and the Prime Minister, Barzani, stressing the need for the unity of the Kurdish parties in the process. She warned that the absence of an effective government will lead to the instability in Iraq, as well as the lack of confidence of the international community and the Iraqi people in the Iraqi political process. This is exactly what you don't want to happen. The United States is committed to helping Iraq strengthen its democracy and sovereignty. The time has come for Iraqi leaders to form the government. So all the warnings that she's talking about is exactly what you don't want to hear. You have a really strong and corrupt group of people that are kiss butts to the New World Order. They're backed by Iran, which, you know, the public's getting pretty upset about the fact that Iran is once again nosing into the business of Iraq. So there's starting to become some public outcry, which might turn out to be a bad situation for those Iranian-backed political people, especially if we go into another set of elections. Al-Qademi threatens ISIS. We will crush your new emir. So Al-Kadhimi said during his supervision of the launch of Operation Solid Will, Phase 2 in Western Anbar, and according to what was stated in a statement by the Prime Minister, the news received a copy of it, directing his speech to leaders, officers, and fighters in various types of security forces. You are performing your national, humanitarian, and moral duty to protect every inch of Iraq and every Iraqi citizen. I assure you of the need to abide by the military orders and directives issued by the leadership. I have seen the drawn up plan and listened to the brief. Your blood is precious. Precaution is also duty, and caution and accuracy in implementation means saving lives and achieving the required goals. Al-Kadhimi issued a warning to ISIS saying, you have tested us in various fields, militarily and security. Praise be to God that daily we record victory after victory, and you are losing day after day. You have no choice but to die. That's put it out there, Al-Kadhimi. You have no choice. Just die. Lay down, die. Why are you walking around? Just die. It's crazy. And we will not be reassured except by crushing you. So we know that they have been testing different areas around Iraq. When we think about reevaluating the Iraqi dinar, a stable government is a key to changing the rate. Well, this government's not stable. As a matter of fact, there's some other things I'm getting ready to go over that this looks like we're headed to a serious war. I'm not even kidding. You want a country that is secured. So that means do what you can to make sure that ISIS don't rear its ugly head up once again. And they seem to be poking it out every now and then. Now, this is interesting. It says, we are sticking to Barham Saleh. The PUK said, we do not have any alliance with the coordination framework, which is not the impression I think a lot of people are getting. I think they are in alliance with them. I mean, even coordination framework has made that announcement. So they want to make sure they stick with Barham Saleh. They're not changing their mind. That's exactly who they want, despite what everybody else thinks they should do. This article just goes on to say that the member of the Patriotic Union of Kurdistan confirmed that there is no alliance between his party and the coordination framework, while stressing his adherence to his candidate for the presidency, Barham Saleh. So if there is no alliance, then what's to keep Sauder from just saying, okay, I agree with you. We'll let Saleh go in. We form a quorum so we can start voting him in. That would screw over big time the coordination framework. But anyways, the leader went on to say there is no alliance between us and the coordination framework and other blocs and alliances, noting that the National Union has an agreement and is close and has commonality with its coordination framework, and our positions with him and his positions with us will continue. The National Union adheres to its candidate for the presidency, Saleh, of course, even if we are sure that he will not win. But we do not abandon him. He will remain our only candidate for presidency. He also pointed out that the political stubbornness does not serve the Kurdish people or the public interest of the Kurdistan region. And we see that the Democratic Party has taken over all positions in the Kurdistan region. The Democratic Party, in the first session of Parliament, got the position of Vice President of the House of Representatives and currently wants the position of President of the Republic. And they are sure that they will demand all the ministers that belong to the Kurd share, because most of the Kurdish parties decided to go with the opposition. So let's hope this doesn't lead to anything more than just hurt feelings. Oh boy, here we go. Talk about somebody doing a political kick in the nuts. That's exactly what Maliki has done. It says the return of the wanted persons to Baghdad comes to reduce the political dispute. No, it actually adds to a lot of issues. So this guy here, Ali Hattan al-Suleiman, could bring some serious pressure to this whole political blockage that's going on. This guy's been in exile now for, a decade, along with a bunch of other leaders that used to be in Baghdad. Now Maliki's allowing them in. It says Iraq, the return of Sunni leader from exile to political scene raises controversy. Oh, yes, it is. The return of the Sunni political and tribal leader from exile sparked widespread debate in popular circles in terms of its synchronization with the political conflict surrounding the formation of the government. These leaders turned into a pressure card in the hands of the former prime minister and the leader of the coordination framework, Maliki, who gave them the green light to return and make settlements on the cases brought against them, according to the local media. Now, here's my thing. How does Maliki have such power to decide who can and who cannot return? It said the news of the return of the tribal leader Ali Hatman Suleiman to Baghdad fell like a thunderbolt to the ears of the Iraqis because of his entrenched hostility between him and the political parties in the capital, which accuse him of terrorism and being behind the entry of ISIS into the Sunni province, while he also accuses these forces of collaborating with Iran. So Ali Antum, nicknamed Prince of the Dulan clans, which is the largest of the tribes in the Anbar Governorate and is one of the symbols of the Sunni protests in 2012. And before that, he was in agreement and reconciliation with Maliki. But the hostility between the two parties has prevailed since then, and a sharp and treachery tone of speech prevailed by the tribal leader towards Maliki. So Maliki's kissing this dude's butt and allowing him back in because this guy is a rival to Halabasi. And you know Halabasi is working with Sadr, of course. Anyways, word came that the exiles will be returning to Baghdad. Maliki's people are, of course, denying it. This is going to be trouble because this guy actually has a lot more influence of the Sunni tribe than Halabasi does. And what this guy pretty much says goes is the word. And if he could take control of the Sunni people, it's going to cause huge problems for the Shiite people, which is what everybody was warned about. I think Maliki thinks by bringing this guy back in, it puts a wedge between the Sunnis and the Shiite who have agreed to work together to form this government that Sadr wants by putting this wedge in there. That Sadr would then cave in to whatever it is that Maliki wants. Because not only is this guy going to be a hassle for Halabasi, if he can somehow splinter the Homeland Alliance by controlling the Sunni tribes, that also becomes a major threat, like I said, for the Shiite people. And I think what Maliki is doing, even though he's part of the Shiite people, is trying to scare Sadr or threaten Sadr by saying, look, not only am I going to fracture your alliance, but they have now become a threat to our people. What are you going to do about it? So there are a couple of good articles talking about where financially Iraq stands and how their banks are doing. Their articles are really good. They're looking solid as far as reserves continue to grow. Of course, the more they can stack up in reserves, the more they can protect their own currency, which is what you want. I'm going to get back to that Al-Hatam here in a moment. Anyways, it says right here, analysts, Al-Kadhimi's government will continue its duties until new early elections in 2023. That's what the guy's suggesting. And that is that Al-Kadhimi, along with Saleh and all the other cabinet members, will stay in place. If these people can't reach an agreement on a presidency after 6 months, according to the Constitution, they have to dissolve parliament. He suggested that they go into early elections after 60 days, which after this stunt that Maliki pulled, this might be a good idea. There are a ton of people in Iraq who are really pissed about Maliki bringing back these exiles. And these people are also Iranian-backed favorites. So by bringing them back, it really is pissing off the Iraqi people who are trying to do away with all these Iranian-backed politicians. Maybe a new set of elections will see their power seriously diminish. That is, unless Al-Hatam comes over here and grabs control of the Sunnis and changes the outcomes of the election. So let's get into this guy, Ali Halman al-Suleiman. I know I'm hacking up his name, but I'm giving it a try. You can see right here, this article lays it out better than any of the other articles. It says, anti-Iran fever heats up as Iraqi's political deadlock continues. As Iran-backed groups block the formation of Iraqi's next government, frustrated voices are getting louder about Iran's meddling. Recent efforts to form a new Iraqi government have all failed to yield results despite the formation of the majority bloc of Sadr's Shiite group, Barzani's Kurdistan Democratic Party, and Halabasi's Sunni alliance. The political deadlock is caused by the Iranian-backed militia and groups such as the Coordination Framework, its Kurdish allies, the Patriotic Union of Kurdistan. Now, remember, they came out and said they are not in alliance with the Coordination Framework, just throwing that out there. And a few Sunni members with ties to Iran. The Iranian-backed CF is leveraging its blocking third votes to halt the political process of electing a new president and prime minister, creating a new wave of anti-Iranian sentiment amongst the Iraqi public. On the 17th of April, a demonstration erupted in the poor and neglected Sadr city, where Sadr enjoys popular support. The protest chanted slogans against Iran first, used by Sadr back in 2015 when they penetrated the Green Zone in Baghdad. More protests were held in the square in the heart of Baghdad, where many young activists gathered to chant against foreign interference in the government's formation and voiced their displeasure with the blocking third. So now you have civil unrest happening in the country. See, this is what you don't want. Unstable government, civil unrest, corrupt members of the parliament trying to get back into power, Maliki allowing Iranian-backed exiles to return to Baghdad. This is really bad. It says also last month there was an attack on Iran convoy carrying Iranian diplomats inside Baghdad. The convoy was traveling towards the Shiite majority city, which is famous for 2 shrines of Shiite imams. A source close to Sadr's movement told the Al Monitor in coordination of anonymity, Sadr is using his strong base in southern Iraq to organize a new wave of protests to call out the foreign interference in the political process. Sadr and his allies recently formed a coalition called the Saving Homeland, but were unable to form a government due to the blocking third. Then Sadr's passed the ball to the coordination framework, giving the alliance 40 days to form the government. Sadr now seems to be preparing for a new wave of protests. It said during his election campaign, Sadr repeatedly promised to form a majority government without the participation of any Iranian-backed groups. After early elections held in October, Sadr called on a national majority government and formed a coalition with the Sunnis and Kurds, while effectively sidelining the Iranian-backed groups who had formed the coordination framework. The coordination framework mission is to halt the formation of the majority government, has been publicly supported by Iranian officials. In a televised interview with the News, Iranian's ambassador to Iraq from 2017 to last week, and previously served as a chief of staff in Quds Force, said, "We view the consensual agreement as the most appropriate, adding it is not the time for majority government yet." Well, who the hell are they to say so? That's what I want to know. The coordination framework is also using other cards to mount pressure on Sadr's allies. It says the coordination framework enjoys warm relations with the chair of the Supreme Judicial Council, who issued a ruling against Sadr's allies, the Kurdistan Democratic Party, to discourage it from maintaining its alliance with Sadr. Last month, the federal court deemed any energy contracts signed by the Kurdistan regional government as illegal and unconstitutional. Another ruling stated that there needs to be a 2/3 majority vote for the election of the president. So not only do they got a judge that is the big dog in the Supreme Judicial Council, but now they also pulled this stunt. It says the coordination framework is also mounting pressure on Sadr's Sunni ally, Halabasi, by supporting his rivals amongst the Sunnis. Last week, the coordination framework invited Rafi al-Azawi, a prominent Muslim Brotherhood figure, to Iraq after almost a decade in exile. The coordination framework also welcomed Ali Hatman al-Sulman, another of Halabasi's rivals, to Baghdad after 8 years living abroad due to his participation in the Sunni insurgency in 2013 and 14 that ultimately led to the Islamic State rise in Iraq. There's also reports that Ahmed al-Alwani, the former member of the parliament accused of leading the Sunni insurgency in 2013 to 14, has been processed to be released. This is not good. It is likely that already strong anti-Iranian sentiment amongst the Iraqi public will worsen as the summer heat is already being felt across Iraq, which mainly relies on Iranian gas supplies to produce electricity. Iran has already reduced its gas commitments to less than a quarter of its contract commitment and is likely to send even less by midsummer. So Iraq might have all that money, but what good is it going to do them? That isn't the thing that's going to cause the revaluation or the reinstatement of the Iraqi dinar. The country has to be stable. The government has to be stable. There can't be any civil unrest. Foreign investors have to feel secure and safe about going there. But you got ISIS popping up here and there. You got Maliki pulling this stunt and allowing exiles back into Iraq. They're all Iranian-backed puppets who the Iraqi people are not thrilled about them being back, but will put pressure on Halabasi for control of the Sunni tribes, which could cause tension between Halabasi and Sadr if Halabasi can't control the Sunnis. This will weaken their alliance. This might reduce the number of supporters that they have. But this doesn't help Maliki either at all, because this could be an issue for the Shiite control. So what's that old saying? This guy is willing to cut off his nose to spite his face? While all this is going on, you have Sadr whipping up his supporters into a frenzy, getting them ready for a protest. Civil war? Maybe? No? Tribal wars? Yeah? This summer is definitely going to be interesting. It doesn't look like anything's going to change. Nothing's going to be settled. There's not enough people to force a quorum for voting. Although the PUK says that they are not in alliance with the coordination framework, if I was Sauter, I would go ahead and allow Burham Saleh to be president as long as the PUK allows to help form the quorum so that they can start forming their government. That would end a lot of this really, really quick. We'll see where it goes. You guys let me know what you think. Anyways, that's it for now. You guys hit the thumbs up button. If you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I surely do appreciate it. And I'll catch you later. I'm out.